Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis. I got a new guest, Attorney Mike Rudolf. Welcome to the show.
Always great to be here. Thanks,
well,
George.
You've been here before, and you've been a criminal lawyer for how long?
25 years.
Well, you get into that because you believe in the Constitution. You kind of like people. You think nobody's perfect. Everybody deserves a second chance. And let's make the cops do their job. And that's your point of view, isn't it?
Absolutely, George. It's an adversary system. It's a system where the prosecution prosecutes and the defense says to the prosecution, can you prove the case first? And if you can prove the case, what's a fair penalty? Not just what do you want?
And when you bump into the age-old cocktail party question of how can you defend somebody who you think probably did it, what you say is, buy me a drink and I'll tell you.
What I say, George, is that I'm protecting your rights, and what you don't exercise, you lose.
Absolutely. And it's so important to keep in mind that the fight that you do, and anybody who is defending the Constitution and defending accused people, really is protecting everybody's rights to make sure that they prove beyond a reasonable doubt by a unanimous verdict that this individual is guilty. And it's awfully important that we have people there fighting. And it seems to me that fewer and fewer people are doing that kind of work, probably for monetary reasons.
It's a real tough economy out there right now, George. And people have to prioritize what they're going to do. I think a lot of people are not checking with lawyers to find out what their rights are and what the ramifications of what's happening to them in the criminal justice system is. And it's not the district attorney's job to tell them the long-term consequences of what's going to happen to them. And some people are really short-sighted and are losing in the system, not because of any ill intention on the part of the prosecution or the state or the government, but because they simply are not their advocates. Their job is to, first of all, it's to do justice, but it's not to explain everything to them. And you really need to have somebody in your corner.
Well, absolutely. When I did this kind of work, and I'm sure it's not changed, when people would call, I would give them 3 bits of advice. Shut up, and shut up. If they're talking to the police and they're talking to the district attorney, they've already violated all 3. Those folks are not on the side of the accused. The first thing that should come to an accused person's mind is to shut up. And the second is to call an experienced criminal defense lawyer like Mike Rudolf. Am I right?
I agree, George. One of the problems we've got, for instance, on things that don't seem to be of high consequence, something like a drug case, is a first offense conviction may be only a $100 fine. But once you have a criminal conviction, then you may not get work. You may not get advanced in plus a second offense is a felony. If you are a young person and you get convicted of a marijuana charge, then you may very well not get public assistance in school. You may not be eligible for financial aid. There are long-term consequences that lawyers know that people don't always think of. If you get convicted these days of a domestic abuse charge and it's anything of violence, you can't possess firearms, even for misdemeanors. People call me lots of times afterwards and say, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, geez, that's not fair. And my standard response is, geez, I wish you would have called me when you had the problem in the first time. That's a 10-year-old problem and I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And often this was a little family argument, and the individual who is charged says, well, to go along with peace with mama, I'll plead no contest, I'll take the hit, even though she's the one who had 1 drink too many that night, and it comes back to change the rest of that individual's life. I think the other thing that comes to mind, especially in times like this where nobody has any spare cash, is that the DA says, we are treating these little marijuana cases as $100 and a slap on the hand at this time, and if they do call an attorney, and the attorney says, well, I think I can help you, but my retainer is $1,500. The math scares people into making what appears to be a smart short-term decision, not realizing that they're going to pay for that decision the rest of their lives.
That's right. And there are lawyers who are reasonably priced. Frequently you get what you pay for. On the other hand, is the public defender's office for people who are very destitute. And we also have a safety net thing called State versus Dean and Dean hearings, where the court will appoint people who can't afford to pay for lawyers, at least at that high retainer rate. And yet, an investment like that, for somebody who's paying for a lawyer, you have to look at it as if you're buying a house. You're essentially working for your reputation, and you have to amortize it over, as a number of years that you're going to be around, because your reputation is worth an awful lot.
And many of these incidents that are technically criminal incidents are taking place with 18, 19, 20-year-old young people with a lot of peer pressure. Everybody's doing it. It isn't heavily enforced, and as Christian said, one of the reasons it's not heavily enforced is they don't have the staff to enforce it, so it's not taken too seriously. You see the list in the paper of all the people who got $100 fines for having marijuana, not realizing that you've got a life expectancy of another 65 years. That will not only stick with you for life, but the next mistake, if they do prosecute it, you're being prosecuted as a felon.
That's exactly right, George. And the district attorney's office in many ways is just as frustrated as we are there are some alternatives that should be available. There's a 961 expungement provision that the state refuses to go along with. That is, first offenders can have their record expunged or cleaned up, wiped off the computer, which is a real problem. There's a CCAP computer and everybody's looking to it, and they're using it for all sorts of improper purposes, to see if somebody's been charged, even if they haven't been convicted. Expungement is something that gets wiped out. The Department of Corrections is saying, we haven't got time to do that sort of thing. Alternatives that we'd like to set up so that people can get alternative disposition so that they don't get expungement aren't available because there aren't the resources out there to do it. So you have to be creative. You have to do things to try to protect people's reputations.
So it's a trap. It might look easy now because the DA's offices across the state can't afford to really heavily prosecute a lot of these things. But the trap is it comes back to get you. What looked like a bargain isn't a bargain. It can ruin the rest of your life. The rules haven't changed. Shut up, call an attorney, get somebody on your side before you talk to anybody, police officer or the district attorney. Did I get it right?
You got it right, George. And it's a long-term consequence. Prosecutors who have 7 minutes on average to decide whether to charge you and then to charge you, and who are going to spend on average, including all the murder cases and much less your small case, are spending less than 52 minutes on average around the state. Somebody's got to be looking out for you. And it can't be the district attorney's office. They don't have the time.
Good point. We're out of time. Thanks for
Thanks,
being on the
George.
show.